Welcome to Lupkov Pass on the new Battle of the Tsar DLC, set in the Russian front, and of course introducing the Russian Empire to Battlefield 1. This is only a small preview of the second DLC, which apparently is going to have 6 maps in it. Of course, we just did get the Novel Knights, and we're expecting 11 new weapons. Come on, Duralius! Myself and these other YouTubers all got an opportunity to capture some of this content while at EA Play a few weeks ago to get our first preview at the DLC, and I wanted to give you my top 3 of what we got to see, as well as details on some of the other content. As you can tell by the current gameplay, the horses come in at number 1. The riders have now received a spear, which you can just use and flail around and get kills with, which is actually pretty effective, but if the horse is sprinting and you hold down melee, you'll go into a bayonet-type animation where you can skewer somebody and then drop them off to the side. I tried this on multiple enemies at one time. It didn't seem like you could skewer 2, 3 of them at a time. Instead, it looked like you just ran them over. And also, we tried to do some jousting, but that seemed not to quite work, at least when we were both trying to go in with the bayonet-type animation. We still have a while before this will actually be implemented in the game, so they may make more tweaks with those things I was talking about, but one of the things I personally would love to see is a 2-seater horse, or the ability for somebody to just jump on the back of the horse and hold on, even if they couldn't shoot, especially for a map like this, where this is the only form of ground transportation that we have. If I got one of my teammates to hop on the back and we rushed over to one of the outside objectives, we'd have a lot more power there than just me going by myself. But that leads me to my second point, the map, which has a lot of really good in it, and we can only speculate of what the other maps will be like. But the snow environment to start was something that I had really wanted to see, and I know a lot of the community has as well, in combination with the weather changes, like when it started to snow, or even just when it was an open, clear area. It was a really nice change of pace in terms of environment. Seeing the enemies contrasted against the snow, but even having the potential to hide because of how much foliage and cover there was, using the trees for cover, and these only having small roads for the horses to run on, made it so there really wasn't just one main big open area, but rather a lot of cover, a lot of elevation changes, and a lot of objectives placed in different positions, so it made it that you had a lot more dynamic choices in where you wanted to go. I think liking the horses so much helped me with this map as well, because it caters so well to the horses. Instead of just having a motorcycle, you now have something that's more mobile, and you even can kill people as you're running along with it. This map had the train behemoth on it, which did have access to a couple of the objectives in terms of assisting it, and it could assist from long range with the driver's seat mortar, but it didn't seem to turn the tide in any of the games that we had played. But it was extremely powerful, especially due to the fact that there was no enemy tanks or anything to help deal with it. It's mainly just players on the ground, and if none of the planes were helping, you had a lot of free area to roam. Similar to Argonne Forest, you probably want to stay away from it, and you can draw a lot of good comparisons to Argonne with this map, but this map is definitely a lot larger. Just the fact that there's so many horses needed to run across it, and how spread out these objectives are, shows that. Of course, with new DLCs also comes new weapons. And that leads me to my third point, the double-barreled shotgun. Exclusive to the Assault class, just like all the other shotguns, but this also had a slug variant to it, which I didn't get much of a chance to try because the factory was just already amazing. You could shoot it one shot at a time, which was enough to already one-shot kill somebody from pretty close range, but you could also set it to fire both barrels at the same time. I found that you really didn't need both barrels just because of how much damage it already did, but it could help you out. And the thing is, having to manage the reload, use cover, especially against so many enemies, it added for a new challenge to where it didn't feel like it was that overpowered, but again, we didn't really have that much time with it. While that was my favorite of the new guns, they also introduced 3 other ones with 2 variants each for each of the classes. The sniper getting a new Mosin rifle, which has an infantry variant, iron sights, as well as a marksman variant that I'm personally happy to see because it's not going to have that glint from the high-powered sniper scopes, just giving your position away, and it has the same sweet spot as the Russian 1895, which doesn't have a marksman variant. This only had a 5-round magazine, but for me, I think this might be a strong contender with the SMLE, this one having a slightly farther away sweet spot, but it'll still depend on the map and situation. For the support, there's a new MG14/17, aka the Parabellum. It definitely feels like the MG15 having a very high magazine as well as shooting very quickly, But this Parabellum shoots even faster, although it does have lower damage per bullet, and you will notice that as it's shooting. There was a suppressive variant which had this optic on it, and then the classic iron sights without. Through my playing, I felt like it was a little bit weak, although it is more forgiving because if you miss, you have so many bullets going down range that you can start correcting for it. But just like the other large capacity guns, it will overheat if you just continue to fire it out. And finally, there was also, of course, a new medic rifle, the Fedorov, which had a optic variant as well as iron sight variant. It seems it'll be better at medium to close range as this actually shoots fully automatic. The recoil is relatively manageable, but the spread on the bullets in terms of their overall accuracy didn't seem to be that great, especially at range, and you can change it to select fire as well if you really need to. While we got to see those 4 weapons for all of the main classes, we also got to see this new weapon for the pilot class. With a suppressor on it, I had high hopes, and I wanted it to be my favorite weapon and include it in my favorite things. However, the damage on it is extremely weak, and only having 9 bullets in the magazine, it became very difficult to get kills. Having the suppressor on it did make it a more silent weapon, meaning it was more difficult to find you. But by the time you took a couple shots at the enemy, they generally had enough time to turn around and just kill you. Regardless, I'm happy to see a suppressor in multiplayer, and it adds another dynamic that they could definitely balance out in the future. I might just not had enough time with it in order to figure it all out, but it did make me feel like I could be a little bit more stealthy as a pilot who does crash land. It also makes me excited to see a suppressor in the multiplayer, and I would still love to see the rifle from single player that suppress make its way here as well. So that's most of what we got to see. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments below on anything I talked about as well. That's it for this one, though. This is SwagMountain 64, over and out.